إنه كان ظلوما جهورا ليعذب الله المنافقين والمنافقات والمشركين والمشركات ويتوب الله على المؤمنين والمؤمنات وكان الله غفورا رحيما. صدق الله عظيم. In the translation that's given by Abdullah Yusuf Ali, with Allah's name, the merciful benefactor, the merciful redeemer. We did indeed offer the trust to the heavens and the earth and the mountains, but they refused to take it, being afraid thereof. But man undertook it. He was indeed unjust and foolish, with the result that Allah has to punish the hypocrites, men and women, and the unbelievers, men and women. And Allah turns in mercy to the believers, men and women, for Allah is all forgiving, most merciful. Sadaqallahu Azim, Allah speaks the truth, and surely Allah's words are true. Alhamdulillah. I know Brother Mark Henry always introduces my segment, and it is called Money Sense. It is called Money Sense. And I'm trying to get back to the money part of it, but it's hard. It's hard because I find in myself, I'm not singular purpose. I'm not built that way, but I'm gonna try to get back to it before they kick me off of AM 360. But I do want to talk about events that are happening in our country. And if you following things, you know that our brothers and sisters in Chicago are under the assault by the federal government or the Trump administration. Let me just put it that way. So, and I'm occasionally watch the news. I occasionally turn into social media to try to find out what's going on. And I'm becoming more and more dismayed that the major news outlets are not covering things the way it should be covered. And we'll talk about that, the loss of confidence in those establishments. So I was on Facebook and I saw a good friend of mine who lives in Chicago, and he was giving an analysis of what was happening there, one that I could trust, by the way. I could trust it. And so I was reading this commentary. I said, man, this is on point. So I invited him on, Imam Tariq El-Amin, to give his perceptions of what's happening in Chicago, because we really don't know. So here he is. Brother Imam, assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam, Imam. How are you? And alhamdulillah, I appreciate you inviting me on.
Oh, not a problem, brother. I figured if I learned from what I read and what you wrote, and I know that many of our listeners and participants can learn. And so I wanted to get that your perception of being there on the ground, because I can't rely on what I'm getting over the media. I mean, I really can't. So
Yeah.
let me find out what's going on. No different than anybody else would do. And I'm sure you might have gotten calls already from around the country, people that know you. But I did want you to expand on what you put on Facebook, and talk about it, and so that we can be more informed about what's going on. So Thank you for accepting that at this short notice.
Well, alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, rabbil alameen, wa salatu wa salam wa rasulillah. So the first thing that I would mention is that in this time of so much information, we also bear the brunt of having to deal um, with an oversaturation.
Mm.
And in addition to that, we also have to deal with a steady campaign, a refined campaign of misinformation,
Mm-hmm.
a consolidation of legacy media. Right now, we're at a point where I think it's 6 outlets that control basically all of the. I'm not saying public media, but our regular channels that we check in for the news, that give us the that give us the the weather, that give us the slice of what's going on in our area and around the nation and globally. So those things being as they are, it does become that much more important to be able to have uh, touch points, folks who are actually in those spaces, and then also to be able to see the larger picture. So we know not just Sun Tzu, who said that war is deception. Prophet Muhammad SAW also uttered the very same idea, that war is deception. And the deception that's taking place right now is there is a growing desire, a growing attempt to frame the militarization or military presence in our cities as a matter of public safety. And while this might be appealing to a particular segment, a sizable segment, I would say those who want to believe that, I would say that those who want to believe that, we also recognize that we're in a time where civil liberties, the ability to engage in peaceful public protest and dissent, nonviolent dissent, the ability to use our collective economic dollars as a means of protest. There are over 13, last check, over 13 states that have outlawed boycott, divestment, BDS, they sanctions, against Israel.
Mm-hmm.
And that being as that is, in addition to the platform of immigration for the Trump administration, by closing the borders and birthright citizenship and getting rid of this so-called immigrant scourge, this is all kind of coalesced to bring us to where we are right now, and that is where we have where now we have ICE in most major cities, and now they're talking about bringing in the military, which they have done here. So in reference to, like, I think the last post that um, the idea I posted in that, it was to present this as a much larger attempt to actually bring us closer to a one-party rule, to destabilize further our republic and democracy by kind of Trojan horsing us to a degree, right? So you bring in the military, and they are here supposedly for the protection of, as they're framing it, for ICE officers, ICE agents. But what actually happens is that we become more and more accustomed to them being in the cities. And what they do is that they are still here in 2026 for the midterms.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, what should be a historic turnout, an historic election turnout, a flipping of the Congress in particular, what we'll find is regular, if not below expected turnout. And that will be because the military presence, they will do 2 things. They will detain, specifically looking at Hispanic, Latino communities, presenting communities, right, just off of the eye test. They will be, excuse me, they will be either detained on their way to the polling place. They will be at the polling places, and many will be deterred from participating in the electoral process. So between detainment and deterrent and deterring, it will have a significant impact on the vote. And so we will be left with we will be left with the effects of gerrymandered districts in Republican majority states. We will be we will be left with a diminished ability to even offer any type of opposition within Congress. And of course, this goes, it primes us for an even greater diminishing within the Senate, and it leads us further towards what many have stated, and I believe as well, which is Trump's major goal, which is to enact martial law. So there's been provocation here. A brother that I was just at an event with a few weeks ago was shot in the head with a pepper ball by ICE agents at the ICE detention facility in Broadview, which is a suburb of Chicago. And they're a group that have been protesting there on a daily basis, and non-violently, might I add. And the brother was shot in the head with a pepper ball, so he's filed a suit. And these are the types of things that are taking place, around the country that we're not always hearing about.
Was that Father Prager?
No. That was Reverend David Black.
Okay.
Yeah. Good white brother.
Yeah, I saw that yesterday on social media.
Yeah.
That he was shot in the head. I didn't catch the name, but I thought it might have been him because when they said he was a priest, So,
Right.
Anyway, so you said a lot, brother, and and it's all fitting in. I can see how it's happening,
Yeah.
So I was wondering, but with all this distrust in the government that's going on right now, America, both sides, nobody trusts the government, and that's setting up an authoritarian situation, which naturally, which the current president would like to have. He wants to form that kind of authoritarian government, and but no one trusts the government. I mean, you hear the MAGA people saying the same thing we were saying 30 years ago, right? And it's getting. I know locally, we just had our local municipal elections, and because the Republicans control Raleigh, the state, then they have the majority on our local election board. And they, there's 3-2, 3 them and 2 Democrats. And I saw how they maneuvered the early voting places. Only had one early voting place, which was the Board of Election.
Yep.
Which means that people that from the far reach of the city had to travel a long way just to vote. But that was their goal again. What you're saying that which will probably happen in the midterms next year, and it's real. So if that can be done in our little town, we're not by any stretch of the imagination, Chicago or Illinois. It's going to be the same thing where they try to limit our ability to exercise our rights as U.S. citizens. And even go through that kind of question on the way to the polls. And all they're doing is, well, you look like you're illegal.
That's right.
We're going to detain you.
Yeah.
Oh man. So it's rough, but that's real. That's real.
Yeah.
And I do want to open up anybody have any questions or comments for Imam Tariq. He's I don't know how to describe it other than being a man. Everybody knows what that is, but he's very active on social media. He's uh, so I do want
Product of the Sister Claire Muhammad school system.
product of the Sister Claire Muhammad School System, alhamdulillah.
Yeah.
The one that we need to save, by the way, everybody. I see my longtime friend Muhammad Sharif is one of the main advocates of our effort 150 in trying to support our schools. So, alhamdulillah. All right, we do have a hand here. Sister Amir Shahid, assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam. Assalamu alaikum, brother man Tariq.
Walaikum assalam, Sister Mira.
By the way, that's my imam here in Chicago.
Okay.
And very proud of it. I just want to say, with the information that you're sharing, that we also have to be vigilant and aware of what we don't see, because a lot of times that covers up what their other hidden agendas, I would say, and we may see visually what's occurring, but believe me, there's something behind that. We may say, well, they're targeting ISIS, or they're targeting, what may be at the forefront, but there's some other hidden agendas, i.e. Muslims, i.e. Other people that take a stand or speak out, so we have to stay aware. And we have to really unify ourselves, to be prepared for anything that may occur, So in my imam, he always try to keep us abreast of situations that, so we can know that a lot of us could be targeted and don't even know it. So we as a Muslim community, Allah has blessed us with a wealth of knowledge. And we have to be able to use it and be a voice for humanity, and don't fear the criticism of the criticizer, because Allah is the power and source greater than any man. So if we keep that in mind, we can help each other and save ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sister. Thank you very much. And sister is exactly right. It's and also we don't want to go for the deep fakes. That's another way that the deep fakes, so we react to the deep fakes and don't see what they're really trying to do. So that's why it's important that we look at, okay, what's the game? What's the game? What are they trying to do? Where they really want us to go? Why they want us to run over here for? Where they're going to be? And we have to have that kind of foresight and look at what's going on.
Can I add one more point?
Yes, sir.
And this is also a point where, because of our unique history and how we have been positioned here in the United States, the difficulties, the trials and tribulations that we have been able to see our way through, with Allah's mercy. It's important for us to recognize the tendency in many, and I have plenty of conversations, some in social media and many, in person, with our people, African Americans, Black folks, who feel a sense of, to some degree, there's a sense of vindication, sense of, well, I'm glad that other folks are going through it right now, right? In their estimation, nobody came to save us, and overlooking even the small narrative that we have when we hear about folks like John Brown, when we hear folks about, what's my man, Newt, they made a movie, Free State of Jones. Matthew McConaughey played him. There have been people who have risen to the challenge of the time to the best of their ability and used whatever resources they had to push back. And now we're in a time where some of us are saying, well, nobody did for us. I'm going to sit back. I'm sitting this one out. This is exactly the response that really Shaitan, that he wants from us, because in this moment, there is no winning by yourself. This is really a time for the leadership, the moral leadership that we have always had. It doesn't mean that we have to be standing out on the very front line. That's not what it means. It doesn't mean we have to sacrifice ourselves, but it does mean that we should take a position of building deeper relationships, building coalitions, leaning into what that title that the Imam Warthi Muhammad rahimahullah, his title, Muslim American spokesman for human salvation. He said that it is better to live. He says better to live next to a good Christian than a bad Muslim. So this idea of being connected, of building relationships, of being good neighbors, this is going to be a critical part of how fast we come out of this.
Right.
If we think that they're not coming after us, we don't have to worry about it. We will have fallen right into the hands of the one who wins by deception and division, and then throw some violence on you.
Yeah, and didn't Allah address that to us in the Quran, where He said, "Do not let the wrong that people do to you lead you to wrong."
That's right. That's right.
I mean, these scholars that I have a lot of Muslim scholars in my Facebook, right? They're scholars, and they're always talking about, and then 2 or 3 of them are students of Imam Muhammad, and they attribute to Imam Muhammad their position, right? And as much as I study Imam Muhammad, I don't come away from that study to get their idea.
Say, what you talking about?
So one brother, I call him Old Wise One. That's my title.
Yeah.
Old Wise One. But I spell it WHYS. And when they're trying to figure out why he come up with that, Old Wise One. So he tells me, and I forgot what it was, and I didn't even use the term black.
Yeah.
Right. And I said, brother, I didn't say anything about black. Well, I could hear it. I can hear what you said in the recesses. I have this ability to extrapolate what you're saying. I said, brother, you need to recalibrate that gift I gave you, because you're definitely wrong, Well, we got to deal with all this stuff, man, and they come out with this stuff. Yeah. And I know that they're MAGA for one reason. You know how when I was growing up in the street, some of you know, before I became Muslim, and I had a little smart mouth, and I wasn't that big, so I couldn't beat nobody. But I had a lot of friends around me that I knew had my back.
Yeah.
So I'll say something, and as soon as I say something to this brother, the first thing out of his mouth is "your mama," right? Well, these guys, we're talking about the guys occupying the White House, and the first thing they come to me with, "We're Obama."
Yeah.
Where did they get that from? Their boss.
That's right.
So I know that they've been magnified.
Yeah.
And they come out and doing this stuff, and if you're not thinking, and this is not from my perspective, you get taken away. But that's their job.
Yeah.
And I asked them, "Bro, how much you're paying you to do that? I know you're getting paid. You ain't doing it for free." They
reply to that?
No.
Yeah. We got a lot of agents among us.
Oh man.
No, and then here's the one. I just had a back and forth. As the brother say, it's the duty of every Muslim to obey the law of the land. Basically saying that any type of protest, any type, and regardless of what the law of the land is, it's not contextual. I say, man, by that logic, you'd have been the one blowing the whistle on enslaved folks as they were trying to run off the plantation, because slavery was the law of the land. So you'd be on the side of the slave catcher and the human trafficker, as opposed to the people that's trying to find liberty, find freedom.
So I had to be careful of that,
Yeah.
Don't go to one extreme, but don't go to the other extreme.
Exactly.
So that's one thing. So we're here discussing with Imam Tariq al-Amin, just some commentary and things that are happening on the ground in Chicago since the some of the attention is going to Chicago with the and another thing, another deep fake is they talking about we're going to send the National Guard in or whatever. Well, they already there, right?
Yeah.
They hadn't been officially sent, but they already there.
They federalized, I think, 300 troops from Texas,
Right.
and they touched down. I'm not sure where, but at a base. It's only a few bases, but they touched down here a few days ago, I believe.
So you had to be careful with that. And another someone else made this point, and I had forgotten it. But didn't Texas send immigrants to Chicago a few months ago?
Well, not a few months. Was it a couple of years ago?
A couple of years ago.
And I think that's
on the plane and
that is a brilliant point because they talked about the catch and release policy. You know, the immigrants come over, they get documented, and then you just let them go. This is a bit more devious. The fact that Abbott, the governor of Texas, that he would send, they said he spent $200 million of Texas taxpayer money to send these migrants from Texas to mostly to democratic cities, democratically run cities. And how interesting is it that now they've released them and now they back to catch them? Right? You could have kept them where they were. Right. So you've given a pretext for an invasion, which is really what it is.
And it shows the long game. It shows you how long they've been planning this. We're reactionary.
Yeah.
To something that's happening, but that's been in the works. I can say it for a couple of years.
Yeah.
Which is probably, I'm not sure what page of Project 2025 is in, but that's been in the works.
You know, some have, my contention is that they have been planning since they lost the Civil War, and they've done different things with varying results. But this is their time for not the Civil War that we think about at Gettysburg, but a Civil War in terms of a reordering of society. And they're doing that much more through the courts and through the mechanisms of government, and of course through use of the military. The last thing, I'll cut myself off, I see you got a hand up, is that for those who find themselves in the military, I heard a great piece of advice. You've taken an oath. You don't have the same type of convenience to be able to reclassify yourself if you were a federal employee. You know, if you're an ICE agent, you could reclassify. You were already with Customs and Border Patrol. You could reclassify to some other federal job if it's available. But for those who are serving, weaponize incompetence. Weaponize your incompetence. That is, you show up, but you do nothing. You turn into that bumbling individual. Oh, I thought I was supposed to go this way. Oh, I wasn't sure. Show up but weaponize incompetence. I thought that was a brilliant, and that was from a former serviceman, high-ranking serviceman.
All right. Sister Martha, get your hands up.
Yes. Assalamu alaikum. God's peace be upon you. To everyone. When you mentioned about, Civil War, that, my behind the scenes thing of studying, I'm Martha Nye Williams Abdullah, calling from St. Petersburg, Florida. And I say Florida because of the, we have National Guards and on the books, readying is for the quote unquote immigration policies and many people have been set to be in line for ICE, and now administratively, they call it administrative situations, so where DNAs are being taken, photographs are being taken those administrative things. So when you mentioned, Imam Tariq, about the what was the term you just used of words that's saying be there but don't be, in other words, you're not a useful agent of the
weaponizing
situation.
competence.
Okay, weaponizing competence. So and so I'm wondering, how can one do that if they're administratively um, being, told to do the DNAs and things like that? Well, I guess you can straight out just say, "Oh, I don't have I don't know where to get the forms from. I don't know." But the main thing, and you probably are familiar with our Alligator Alley situation, which was called Alligator Alcatraz, and the situation there. I'm not totally abreast as to what the current situation is, but I know that the representatives from South Florida has been very active. I grew up in Pompano Beach, which Miami and all of that is the southern part. So those are things that's happening around the state. But as an incentive to everyone, still we can look at those policies, like you say, that are old on the books, and we have slept on it. And that's what, as I say, Trump is really erecting those old policies, such as vagrancy laws. And Adam, I spoke with that the other day. But and other laws that are there, and you say, oh, no way they'll bring those back into action. But I'll stop right there.
Great points.
They're bringing back in action anything. When I see what the National Guard and the other troops are doing to undo what has been done, my mind went to the early 60s when the National Guards were escorting these young African Americans to integrate schools in the South. Remember that? And it's interesting, fast forward to now, when the same organizations are doing what they can to undo those types of things. See, that happened through the federal government. The president, during that time, sent troops to Alabama to integrate those schools, right? And we saw that as a good thing. But the Southern racists saw that as an intrusion. And they've been waiting their whole life to undo that. So now we have the federal troops and others being sent by the president to undo the things that were done back in the 60s. That's what it's all about, to me. They're trying to undo the progress being made. They're trying to get rid of that. When you look at the federal layoffs that was done, when you go lay off people, if you say we're going to lay off people, that's incompetent. But the results of that layoff ends up being African Americans, African American females.
Yeah.
That's targeted, right? For those of you that are, when tax season comes up, don't be surprised when IRS moves slowly, because they're talking about furloughing almost half of the IRS staff, right? But if they blame on the government shutdown, then you have the guy occupying the White House that's saying that he might not give them that back pay when they come off furlough. You understand? So who knows what's being planned, but we got to anticipate that and try to undo that, because it's going to be terrible. I mean, it really is. It's going to be terrible going forth. And I guess I'm kind of sensitive when you talk about the IRS being, because I was at IRS when I was in my mama's womb. I used to go to work with her every day. She retired from IRS, right? So I never thought that I'd be an accountant, be an advocate on the side this long, but I'm sensitive to that, because I know all the struggles she had to go through just to maintain with IRS. How she had to move from city to city when I was a young boy in order to maintain employment, because where she was, they wouldn't give her promotions, right? So I ended up going from North Carolina to Pennsylvania to Atlanta, all of my lifetime. So I'm sensitive to that, right? So excuse me for that, but that's a little personal stuff out there. All right. So, but we have to, I feel we have to come up with some kind of strategy as a people to counteract that. Because other than that, there's nothing we can do if the court system won't take up for the things that are done to us. And they're not. They're trying to slowly overturn that. If the political system won't take up for it, and all these other things, then what's left? Got to do what Donna Brown's mama said, do for self. You know, you got to do for self. So, go ahead.
One other thing, migration. We're speaking of immigration, but there was that massive migration, from the south to the north, and so and I know many are listening, and perhaps will listen later, but I'll just say migration, and not giving any course of action of how, but ultimately to save the years to come, for the years to come, we have to, see it in a proactive manner of planning and alhamdulillah, that kind of thinking.
Yeah.
And I would add to that as well. When Imam Muhammad, when he referred to us as a new people, that was not a static definition. That wasn't just meaning we're a new people in terms of folks whose descendants, when in Africa, may have been antagonistic towards one another, may have been, opposing tribes, spoken different languages and had different cultures. Africa's a big place. People forget about that. And we came here and we developed something through that circumstance that bonded us. But it was not just about us or just for us. It was also a response to this, the presence of white supremacy, and how it has been dependent upon this stratification and a hierarchical nature within society to say, we're going to separate black from white, and we're going to, and white is at the top, right? So our experience is also a pattern. It's also a sign that a new people can also arise out of this population here in the United States of America. And it won't be defined solely by color. It won't be defined by ethnicity, right? But really defined by those who want to, number one, they want to preserve human dignity. They recognize that white supremacy has been used and it's really bearing its fangs right now. But to dismantle that and to have an expression of community that is not dependent on ethnicity, is not dependent upon color. And that requires a lot of, I want to say, sophistication and intention, because one thing we're always worried about is infiltration, right? We're always worried about folks coming among us who don't really want to be among us. They just want to find out what we're doing, right? But we do have to have the faith and the intention and work towards building this community that Imam Muhammad, I believe when I listened to him, that he was talking about, and us being an integral part of leading the shaping and building of that community that that points to the destruction of this system that has been built upon white supremacy, upon prejudice, and all of these evils. So that's where I'm looking at.
Mm-hmm. And you'd be surprised at how many allies that are banding together to fight that.
Yep.
That's not dependent upon skin color.
That's right.
Or race.
Yep.
It's dependent upon goodness and establishing what's good. All right. And that's what scares me.
Absolutely.
And I'm afraid they just haven't seen to them that it's too late. You understand? They haven't come to that realization because of what's happening now. And for them to try to reimpose that old system back on us and on others is going to be a problem.
Absolutely.
I saw a video last week about this seemingly Caucasian female that grew up in a town in Ohio. And the town they were in, all the colors lived together. And she's old, and she's raising her granddaughter and told her, you're not, granddaughter said, I'm white. And she said, you're not white. You're black, right?
Yeah.
And grandma would not move off of that. She would not move off that. I said, okay, there goes our number one ally. We need to do that. And you mentioned John Brown.
Yeah.
And I've always said he's one of my favorite historical Caucasians.
That's right.
There's a family that ended up in Quebec, African-American family, old picture. I know somebody that knows their great grandson. And I'm trying to reach him, have him on this program and talk about that, because I just think there's a lot in that we need to know. And hopefully, inshallah, we can make that connection and have him on our program.
Inshallah, that would be great.
Coming forth. Brother Edward, assalamu alaikum, brother.
Wa alaikum assalam, Imam. And Imam Tariq El-Amin, I do read some of your posts on Facebook from time to time. Welcome. It's great to finally hear your voice. I've seen your face, but it's great to hear your voice. There was a podcast I was listening to a couple of days ago, and the host of the podcast, who's somebody I really respect, brought up the point that we as a nation almost had a stroke when Jimmy Kimmel was taken off the air. Yet we have these takeovers by ICE and now National Guard and potentially United States military troops into our cities. And there's some polite protest, but the people aren't filling the streets, and nobody, on the so-called other side, and there really is an other side, but I can't really put my finger on who they are, all of them. Nobody supposedly on our side is doing anything to impose anything on the people on the other side for them to genuflect and maybe decide that this is a bad idea, like they did in the Jimmy Kimmel situation. So subtle strategies that we might use, we might not start thinking about now, of how we get messaging out that this is not acceptable without putting ourselves on the front line. Because nobody in the Jimmy Kimmel case put themselves on the front line. They just went to Disney and decided, I'm going to unsubscribe, I'm canceling my subscription, whatever the case may be, and billions of dollars disappeared, and Disney said, no, Jimmy's welcome. He's welcome. He can come back anytime he wants to, right? So there's got to be pressure points on the other side that don't put us in peril, that we can show them that this is not acceptable behavior in this country. And I just wanted to throw that out there for thought, because I don't have the answer. Don't even have the formation of the answer. But I do think it's something we need to think about.
Well, let's talk about Target. Let's talk about Target.
Okay, I have to dissuade myself from going by there today. I'm going to have to go buy somewhere else because I'm still cognizant of that situation. And I know it's working. And that's another economic situation.
I haven't
So are we saying that their pressure point's always money?
Excuse me?
That's their God.
Thank you.
Well, okay, you said
for these corporations,
it's their what? I
money.
missed that last week. It's their what?
I said for corporations, it is money.
Okay. It's their God. That's what you said, Imam Tariq. It's their God. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. And you know, being in the financial realm, brother, you know how that works. You know how that works.
Can we galvanize enough people? And it seems like it has worked in the Target case amongst all sectors to in some way affect this situation like that. I mean, Portland, Chicago, New York, Boston, wherever else they're pointing the finger at, Memphis. You know,
well, see, a lot of the corporations are caving because of money.
right.
Because you got the extortioner in chief running things.
Okay, but he couldn't affect Disney. So does that mean that there has to be a collective effort, say, aimed at media companies? That if you are a subscriber to the Chicago Tribune, that people just start canceling subscriptions, canceling advertising, things of that nature until they start reporting what is actually happening on the ground and not just what they're told to support. And the New York Times and the Washington Post and the Boston Globe and LA Times and so on and so forth until they actually respond and start again reporting the truth of what's happening. Is that what we have to do? Do we have to vocally say this is what's going to happen and then let them stand by and watch it happen before they change their policies? And that goes for ABC and CBS and NBC and the lot.
I would say that if we can really convince them that you won't get the eyeballs anymore, and then we know that most of the money comes from advertising, and if the advertisers have a sense that you don't have the viewership you used to have, so we're not going to pay you as much for the advertising for a dwindling viewership, then that might work. It might work, but go ahead, brother.
I would also remind us that because the vast majority of media is owned and operated by is controlled by six or seven companies.
Right.
To remember that the reality that we're being seen, that we're being presented, we should automatically assume this is not reality. There have been sustained protests about the presence of ICE. I mean, of course, they're not taking up arms, which we're not telling anybody to do, right? But they are protesting, vociferously, and constantly, and it's not getting the coverage, right? Mm-hmm. The only kind of coverage that's being shown, if there's a dust up, there's anything that is indicating any type of or potentiality for violence that can allow them to go to the next stage. Mm-hmm. That's what's being shown, but they're not showing the massive protests. Just like we're not seeing the massive protests that are happening globally related to Gaza, right? Mm-hmm. And so that is what it speaks to, is that there's a need for independent media. That means that just thinking about the Journal, right? There has to be a maturation as well with that. Like the Journal should have its own like cable outlet, right? And that falls on the supporters. And I don't want to digress too much, but to your last point, it is identifying the economic push point, right? The economic lever, and pulling on that. So if it's the advertisers, directly, if it's the outlets, whatever it is, but withholding by refusing to participate, that in itself it becomes noticeable, but it can't be, it can't just look like attrition. It has to look like this is a targeted effort. So I agree with you, and I think the answer is probably a bit simpler than we might think it is.
Mm-hmm. But I agree, you have to hold to it when you go that way. And similar to what Target felt, they can pay some preachers $300,000 to break the boycott. And they were alarmed that it didn't work. But the people that took that little bit of money should be exposed, and we boycott them. And that's what we're not doing. So it's interesting, but it's something we should do. And I agree when I go back to do for self, and that's the part of what Imam Taqi was saying about the Muslim Journal. That's self. That's us. That's our media. But we got to support it.
Yeah.
We have to.
Do we also need to?
Yes, I'm gonna have to leave.
Okay, brother, man. Thank you very much for taking time out to come with us.
It's been my pleasure. I appreciate the invite, and that definitely benefited from the conversation.
Alhamdulillah.
All right. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam. Brother Adam, do we also need to force those that represent our community to adapt to the changing times? That if we are going to support them, then they, in somewhat of a passive way, people might even say passive aggressive, that they need to be in the forefront of supporting our ideas and issues, not just occasionally, but it should almost be an everyday thing. Because things are happening on the ground very rapidly every day. It's a very concentrated campaign to undermine freedoms of all kinds, liberties of all kinds in this country. So the response has to be constant, in my mind.
Well, thank Allah, we have outlets such as this that we can take positions that we feel is necessary to take, and are not relying upon the blessings of anybody in terms of even people that are leaders in our association that think we need their blessings to get a message out. We have this, not defiantly saying that, but I mean just this the reality. We can't wait. We can't wait on that reality to come to their mind, or to them to come up with a mechanism that we can address these situations. We're just going to address them. And I don't think that's being disrespectful, saying we're not following leadership. The leadership is not just leadership in the areas that we're operating in, right? It doesn't mean you're a leader in everything, right? The prophet had to exemplify good actions in many areas because he implementing a Quran, which is the book that of success for all in all areas of human life, right? So I don't know, but we need to, in my estimation, we need to continue on and continue looking for ways that we can address the injustices that are appearing in the world. Going back to that hadith that I love, if you see it wrong, remove with your hands. If you can't remove with your hands, then speak against it. If you can't speak against it, if you're not free enough to speak against it, then hate it with your heart and know that the heart is the weakest of means. And I hope I recounted that hadith accurately. If I didn't, please, anybody correct it. All right, as we... It's been a great program. Go ahead. Someone's going to say something.
Yes, assalamu alaikum.
Ma'am Yusuf, wa alaikum assalam.
Yes, it very, very good program. I just wanted to say that what the Imam told us about that hadith is that when they say that the hatred of the heart is the weakest,
Mm-hmm.
he said you can't say it's the weakest because you'll never speak on it or address it with your hand until you first hate it in your heart. It has to start in the heart.
So it has to evolve.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. First, you're
So
gonna hate
if
it
it
in your
don't,
heart. That's gonna
if
make you make a move, either with your tongue or your hand.
so, if it don't evolve, it died in the heart. It's weak. I'm,
Well, I guess you could. I
I'm,
guess you could. I guess you could characterize it that way, but I don't think it would die in the heart. I mean, when we were coming through our I would say Holocaust in this country,
mm-hmm.
you know, especially from the South, and you from the South, you know, they I never saw them, but I heard about the laughing barrels and all that you couldn't even laugh. You know, if a white man slipped on a banana peel, you better not laugh. You had to stick your head in the laughing barrel. You know what I mean? They had what they call reckless eyeballing and all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? If you
Mm-hmm.
was looking, if you was looking, you know, at something you shouldn't have been looking at, maybe it was a pretty white woman or somebody walking by, whatever they didn't want you to look at. You know, so you definitely wasn't gonna speak up on nothing. But that
Right.
didn't mean that we didn't hate that situation in our hearts until
Well
we could do
taken.
something better. You know.
Well taken, brother man. Yes.
Yeah, but very, very, very interesting topics that you were hitting on. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. I hope everybody enjoyed it. And it's
Very much.
9:01, brother. So you're here now. So go ahead and take over. Inshallah. I'll see everybody next week, inshallah.
All right. Okay.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. That is with God's name, the merciful benefactor, the merciful redeemer. Peace be unto you. We'd like to welcome everyone to New Day for Al Islam in America. American Muslim 360 edition, the number one Islamic Zoom station in America. And this is the program that deals with current events and trending topics, issues of concern from the Muslim perspective. And as we always say, the Muslim perspective is and always should be the human perspective. So we dealing with current events, trending topics, and issues of concern. So I would like to begin with and a surah from the Quran, and that is the last surah, 114. 114 uh, in the Quran and how it applies, you know. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم كل أعوذ برب الناس ملك الناس إله الناس من شر الوسواس الخناس الذي يوسوس في صدور الناس من الجنة والناس. Lightly translated, with God's name, the merciful benefactor, the merciful redeemer. Kul, say, I seek refuge with the Lord and cherisher of mankind, the king or ruler of mankind, the God or judge of mankind, from the mischief of the whisperer of evil, who withdraws after his whisper, the same who whispers into the hearts of mankind, among jinn and among men. Surely Allah speaks the truth. So I hope that we can apply that and see how it applies to our situation that we live in now. You know, we have great influence. You know, I heard Imam Adam and his guest, they were talking about the you know, the media and there was a great article in our media over 20 years ago. I believe definitely over 20 years ago. Afraid, as the Imam say, if you want our paper to be successful, you have to have articles in there that's not afraid to agitate. You just can't. It's good. It's good to come on and show pictures from a fundraiser and things of that nature. You know, that we had a successful fundraiser. That's great, but that can't be the only things that we have to showcase in our paper. It's great, and I'm not saying that's all that there is, but I'm saying we have the articles that we have. We can't have tepid articles. We can't have lukewarm articles. We got to have what the young people call today something that goes viral, something that gets people attention. It's people that know how to get people's attention. And if you are on X, formerly Twitter, or you're on Instagram or anything like that, there's people who are masters of that. They call them master trolls or whatever. I'm not saying that we should say deliberately provocative things. That's not true. But we can't be afraid to agitate, as the Imam says. We have to be able to agitate for something that's good, telling the truth, as Imam Adam was saying. We have to tell the truth. One thing that seems to be controversial is speaking up for humanity. You either have to be for black or for white. They won't let you speak up for humanity. If you speak up as our holy book teaches us to do and recognize the human being, that we're all human. And I don't mean the ones that's not human. I'm talking about the ones that are human. What do you mean, Brother Man? Well, obviously, some people are ruled by their jinn nature, and they can degenerate. You can degenerate in your jinn nature, as the Quran shows us, until you shaitan. Shaitan didn't start out like that. He started out as Iblis. And that jinn nature, that fiery nature, that fire free from smoke, burned him up so much. Now, if you're looking for jinn walking down the street, you're going to miss it. Because Prophet Muhammad sallallahu was asked by his wife, Aisha, radiallahu anha, when he said to her, the jinn circulates in the human being just like the blood. And she asked him, now every human being has blood, right? And she said, just even you? Even you? He said, even me. But mine has become a Muslim. So there's much to be understood in that. Much to be understood in that. He is submitted. So he's no longer ruled by that. He's no longer ruled by that. You know, someone was telling me that a friend of theirs was acting inappropriately, and it offended them. And this was a woman, and she said, and her explanation was, and she used the crude explanation, crude wording. She said, "I like sex." Now, let's analyze that. In other words, she was saying, y'all must don't like sex, but I'm not afraid to say I like sex. So let's analyze that for a minute. Did she invent sex? Is sex or a proclivity for sexual enjoyment exclusive to her? Or did Allah give that to the human being, but give us rules and regulations and guidelines in order to govern it so that jinn nature, that fiery nature, doesn't overtake us? So why would you tell me that you like sex? No, what you're saying really is that your penchant for that lust has dominated you. It dominates you. So therefore, don't expect me to act civilized. I'm going to do whatever I need to do to quench that what Freud, or Freud as the man called him, Sigmund Freud, called the pleasure principle, that the human being is made up of that the human being, the thing that drives the human being is the desire to avoid pain and to achieve pleasure. So we know that's not true. Our religion, our way of life, has taught us that's not true. We fast during the month of Ramadan. So it'd be pleasurable to have another slice of that carrot cake or that bean pie. But the light is in the sky now. Or have another bite of that turkey sausage and egg sandwich that was so good. The light is in the sky. So we see that we can push that away and say, no, I can't have another bite. The light is in the sky. It's time for me to fast. And we've done that over and over again, some of us for 40 years. So we know that that's not the human nature. We know that the human nature can rise above your nafs, your lower desires that are not, and we're not saying lower in the sense that they should be, as the Catholic Church taught, that to say, oh, I can't manage those desires, so therefore I'm not going to deal with it all. I'm going to live a life of celibacy. No, that's not balance either. That's not the balance. You're not supposed to do that. And even talking about sex during the daylight hours, you're not supposed to indulge in that with your husband or wife during the daylight hours. Now, we said that because you ain't supposed to indulge in that if you don't have a husband or a wife. Huh? Yes. And he tells you to fast. If those desires are overtaking you, that you should fast and you don't have to wait for Ramadan. You see? So people, you know, man, yesterday we talk. Man, Madam was saying how, you know, the boycott strategy or the cancellation strategy of ABC caused them to rethink their position about Jimmy Kimmel. You know, and Imam Adam was saying money is their god, and that's right. But we should ask ourselves, why is that their god? Oh, because you don't have a house with a heated swimming pool and they do. No, that's just part of it. They have a beautiful house, you don't. So that's why that's their God. Well, no, it's that too, but it's their God because that system that allows them to make that money in abundance. So you can't work that hard. You can't work. They say, work smarter, don't work harder. I don't care how hard you work. You can work 10 jobs. You're not going to make $10 million a year. Okay? For the most part. I'm not talking about people, you saying, oh, you don't know what my job is. That's true. If you might have, but if your job is a high paying job, it's not connected to how many hours you make. You're not trading money for dollars. No. You ain't got enough hours to make that kind of money. So you have to be doing something else. And you know what's funny? It's funny. Well, I wouldn't say funny because, you know, he's my grandson and he's only 9, but he has come up in an entrepreneurial family. So when we came out the restaurant last night, he saw a self-driving vehicle. He saw a self-driving vehicle. And he was astounded. When the car took off, he was calling me, look, there's nobody in there. And the car's moving, right? he was so elated that he was actually running to try to, and I said, hey, slow down. You know, there was other cars out there. And I didn't realize that the car was one of those self-driving vehicles. But in the way back, on the way home, he was saying, now look how he thought. He's thinking because of him being in an environment. They say, you know, man is a product of the environment. He said, with no prompting or anything, he said, uh, if I had some self-driving vehicles like that, I could use them to deliver pizza. And people wouldn't have to get on the bus. Now he said he didn't say one, he said one of my cars I could send to pick them up. They wouldn't have to take the bus. And then, the law is my witness, he said, and then I wouldn't have to work that hard. So we have to teach our children. We have to teach our children, and they learn, they say children learn by living. They learn by living. When I was much younger, and I was still living in Queens, in a part of Queens called Glen Oaks, Queens, right there by this Glen Oaks uh, uh, golf course. So there was a kosher restaurant I used to like to go to. I like their food. Their brisket and their the different meats that they had, the kosher meats, and so I went in there, and the man, the older man and his wife wasn't there. I saw the other man that must have been their son, that he had his little son with him. And he came out from behind the deli counter and went behind the cash register, which wasn't back there. It was separate. He brought his son with him that was about maybe 8 years old, and he made his son go behind the register and take my money, do the transaction. And when I handed him the money, and he said to his son, how much is his change? Now, he was teaching him and training him that your place is on this side of the cash register. You're supposed to take the money. Or you reading too much into it. No, you're not reading enough into it. He was teaching him and training him at that age that is your place in the world. You take the money. He's the consumer, and you the producer. So we have to begin to do that. We have to begin to do that not only with ourselves. The other thing that I like that Imam Adam was talking about on his show is do for self. Now we're talking about this immigrant situation, and a lot some of our people are saying, "Oh, they're playing in our faces. They're giving money and they're giving gift cards and things to these immigrants. They're not giving to us. That they're not giving us. Why would you give it to them? And we're taxpaying citizens." Those are all legitimate questions. But the reality is, why are you waiting to get your reparations? Or why are you waiting to be treated fairly, which we have never been treated fairly in this country? That's another lie that Charlie Kirk and them are saying. There ain't no racism. There ain't no systemic racism. There's no redlining. Look, you can't sit down at the table and argue with somebody that you know is an open enemy to you. Why would you sit down and ain't nothing to discuss? You need to be up trying to do for self, get you something. You worrying about the government giving them gift cards. You got to get your own gift card. That's what gets me. The Nation of Islam said you're busy, and even not just during the Honorable Elijah Muhammad days, but even Minister Farrakhan said you was busy begging the white man for what you can do for yourself. Now there are people that will, and they have argued me to the ground. If we pay our taxes, we're entitled, but they're not going to give it to you, or at least no time soon. So what are you going to do in the meantime? The Honorable Elijah Muhammad, may Allah forgive him his sins and grant him the paradise, said, if you don't have a job, make a job. You have to get to work. So we know that you'll say, oh, that's not possible. How am I going to make a job? If the government don't give me, or if the government don't see to it that I get a job, look, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, a man was crying that he didn't have anything. He didn't have no money. And the Prophet asked him, have you ever sought wealth? He said no. And the Prophet laughed. He said, look, I got an idea for you. Entrepreneurship. He didn't use that word, but he said, go out in the woods, take your axe and chop down some some wood, some trees, or chop down some branches and take it to the marketplace and sell it. And then you'll have something. He said, I don't even own an axe. So the prophet looked to the brother that was with him and said, loan him your axe. He said, now go do what I told you to do. Make the money, buy yourself an axe, and come back and give brother so-and-so his axe back, and keep doing that, and then you'll have some money. So isn't that the same thing that Prophet Muhammad, that Honorable Elijah Muhammad was saying? If you don't have a job, make a job. So these people, I'm talking about professors, black professors that we have, argue, oh, that's not a viable option. Do for self doesn't work. There's nothing else that does work. That's the only thing that works. Do for self. You got to get up in the morning and make your bed and wash your face and wash yourself and take a shower for self. Well, that is the same thing. You're on the line of progress going towards doing something for yourself. You mean to tell me you're 18 years old and your mother has still got to bathe you? No, you raise that child to the point where, they can get in the shower themselves, get in the tub themselves. They can regulate the water and see whether it's too hot or too cold themselves. If you don't start teaching people, they'll never be able to do it. And you have to introduce those concepts to our people. Our people don't have it. That's why we were such a phenomenon that the Imam talked about, Dr. C. Eric Lincoln. He's the one that named us Black Muslims in America, because he saw this group here, they ain't Negroes, and they definitely not N-words. There's something different about them. They carry themselves with respect. These are not weekend N-words. They don't work all week, but Saturday night N-words that we used to say, and then get drunk, cabaret all day Saturday, and go to church on Sunday. No, that's not them. They respect themselves. They respect their women. They don't use drugs. They don't smoke. They're not using profanity. They're clean. Their clothes are clean. Their shoes are shine. And the Imam said that academic people, when they notice something like that, a change in society, they will study it. They will research it. That caught his attention. So don't tell me that you can, and under that leadership of a man with a third grade education, we had our own stores. We don't have that now, or too few to mention. If a black person opened a super, we putting balloons up in there. He got a supermarket. Now, what is stopping us from getting together and having a supermarket? And I'm not talking about just here in America. I have traveled. I've been in the Caribbean on vacation. And I saw that the supermarkets, and I was just talking about this online with some people, a lot of these brothers and sisters would tell you when you come to their Caribbean nation, welcome to paradise. I say, well, if you're talking about the weather and the beach, it's the beautiful balmy weather and the beautiful ocean and the warm weather and the beautiful pink sand, I understand what you're saying. But when I see your condition, when I see the state that you're in, I'm saying it looked more like hell to me. For you, not for the owner that owns that hotel, that you who's from that paradise that you claiming, you better not get seen walking on the beach. You, the indigenous person that lives there, you better not come on that beach. They'll lock you up. They have security. I was at a different island, and the brother walked by selling coconut water. And my wife wanted to call him over to get some for my grandson. And this black security from that country, Grenada, went over there and said no, told him to get off the beach. And he said, told my wife, you can go back up to the hotel. She said, I'd rather get it from him. And he said, I know, but I'll lose my job. Now, so this is not just peculiar to us here in the States. You go around and you see us in bad situation, not good economic situation. Not all of us. I'm not saying that's all. That's not true. Not all of us, but too many of us are still under the auspices, the authority of that post-colonial, and I don't want to call it post because it's still going on. The island of St. Martin, they have a Dutch side and they have a French side. When you get to the island, you fly in there, you're on the French side. I'm talking about they got beautiful white uniforms, the police, white boys. I saw very few African on the French side. Then they have the Dutch side. I said, well, hell, where's your side? Do you have a side? You got a French side. I'm talking about today in 2025. So if you don't do for self, when I went to Juma, on that island, and so they asking me, do y'all have Lariba financing? Do you have a Lariba bank, a no interest bank? I said, do y'all have a supermarket? Well, ask me about no damn bank. Do you even own a supermarket? You want to know if I got a no finance bank? I want to know, what do you own? Because I don't see it. And the ones who own the supermarkets, if they throughout the Caribbean, Jamaica, wherever Chinese, they're not from there, but they own the supermarket. Now, the Imam said, I'm not mad at the Chinaman for having that supermarket. I'm mad at you for not having one. He saw a void and he filled it. That's business. He saw a need and he serviced that need. Okay? So you can say that the government is still not treating us right. I agree with you. But what are you going to do about it? So it took a man with a third grade education to tell us that, and these Negroes are still fighting against it. I'm talking about a professor is on there. He's a big professor at one of the universities, and he's on there talking about, do for self don't work. Now you tell me what does work. So if you're telling me that don't work, then you telling me nothing. You have to wait on the government to take care of you. No, that's not a man. Men are the protector and maintainers of women and children. So we have to get up and get out and get something. We got to do something. And there's more dignity in that. My great-grandfather, I never met neither one of my grandfathers, but I met my great-grandfather. And he was selling little vegetables and stuff in Harlem back in the 1950s. That's doing, you said, well, that ain't no business, brother, man. Look, the shade of a toothpick beats the hot boiling sun. And the Bible says it's better to light one candle than to curse the darkness. So don't tell me that's not doing nothing. It's a start. And don't you know, they wrote a book called The Merchant Princes. The Merchant Princes. Talking about how the Jews started out on the Lower East Side downtown. Vending, the way you see our brothers and sisters doing now, vending. And those vending enterprises wound up becoming in Gimbals and Bambergers and Bloomingdale's. They became merchant princes from starting out small. That's how you start out, get big, by starting out small. You don't start out big. We want to start, that it takes too long. You need to get, and I'm not telling you how to run your business. I don't believe in that. I don't tell people how to run their business because they don't listen any doggone way. They don't listen anyway. But to me, I'm saying if you want to build up your business, then you should take your time and be patient and save your money and you make those moves. Now, there's certain times in business what they call scalability. You have to scale up. So you might start out with, I don't know, let's use something simple. You might start out making t-shirts. I was in the t-shirt business too. I was in the t-shirt business. I took a design of a minaret that we used to see on the Muslim Journal, and I put Assalamu alaikum on there. And I was selling them shirts all over the country. So if your product takes off and somebody say, hey, I need 10,000 shirts. Well, you ain't gonna have the money to fill that order, right? You just started. So you might have to borrow some money or whatever the case may be in order to what they call scale up. You got to scale up to be able to get in production to do that. You see? And I was getting orders from California. I used my daughter as the model in the Muslim Journal. I took an ad in the Muslim Journal with her wearing the shirt, Salam Alaikum. And one of the brothers that I was getting to do my screen printing and everything for me, I looked up and he had some other shirts and he was giving them to a sister. And I said, hey, what's going on? The sister told me, you don't own Assalamu Alaikum. I said, I didn't say I own Assalamu Alaikum, but I own that design. And then I realized, I said, well, the sister trying to feed her family and stuff, you know what I mean? I'm not gonna begrudge her that. You know what I mean? That's not the only business I'm in. Go on and let the sister, But I said to the brother who was supposed to be a friend of mine, I said, you gonna give my design away to everybody? He said, no, and I felt bad for the sister. She needed to make some money or something like that. I said, well, at least you could have said something to me. But these are some of the things that we go through in business. So I'm at the halfway mark. I've been talking, and I don't see anybody's hand up. But if someone would like to join in uh, and comment on what we said so far, but I do want to say this. I hear someone. Does someone want to say something?
Yeah, Martha Nyla, but after your comment, Imam.
Yeah, so the other thing that got my attention was, this guy Van Jones. He comes on Bill Maher's show the other day, and he makes a joke out of it. He said, TikTok. They lied to us, and they told us that the reason why they wanted to ban TikTok was because the Chinese were using the algorithm to capture information, all this kind of stuff. No, it really had to do with the Zionists not wanting us to see what's going on in Gaza and places like that. And the people that they sold it to, they forced the Chinese to sell 80% of the company to Larry Ellison, who's a Zionist, and some others. Okay, and Van Jones, who got $100 million from Jeff Bezos. And that's what I wanted to say about the reason why money is their God. Money is their God because it enables them to be your God. When they got enough money, you wouldn't believe in God either. If Allah didn't do nothing for you, you would just believe in the God and say, fast and pray, and am I going to get anything? No, but I just want you to fast and pray. No, you getting benefits from it, right? Not to mention the Akira, not to mention the Jannah. Okay, so Allah keeps his promise. Allah gives his promise. So they want to be God over you. Because if they got the most money, if they can tell you, cancel his show, so he can't make no money. Fire him from his job so she can't make no money. That makes you say, oh, well, what do I have to do to keep that from happening? Whatever I tell you to do. I'm God. I'm God. I tell you what to do. See, that's why they love to have that system. So Van Jones comes on there and he says the reason why TikTok, is turning the people against Israel, because you see, dead Gaza baby, dead Gaza baby, dead Gaza baby. He did it. And he thought, he thought that was so funny. Now they dragging him all over the place for his insensitive, racist comment. Now, this is a so-called black man. But the $100 million that they gave him, he's bought and paid for. So we have to have independent media because like that article I was telling you about, who owns America's media, Let me give you a clue. Who don't own it? Muhammad, Sabir, Abdullah, Rahman. That's who don't own it. Jones, Smith, Johnson. That who doesn't own it. Now your turn. You tell me who you think does own it, what their names are. Go ahead, Sister Martha.
Definitely not going to touch that one with an answer. But alhamdulillah for what
No,
you brought forth.
I'm not putting it on you. I'm not
I
putting it
know.
on you. I'm just saying, go ahead and make your comment.
Yes, sir. And greetings of peace to you, Imam, and to
Yes,
everyone.
ma'am.
As you were speaking, and touching on reparations and other things and entrepreneurship and all of that, and we're speaking about incorporation here, with the younger ones and all, I said to myself, okay, we're moved by passions, of course, our desires. And I ask myself, what is it that I'm willing to give up? Michael Hameen has said that often, and willing to follow the money that we are moving. Does that make sense? The money that we are moving
Absolutely.
within our own, I'm speaking now of those in connection with Imam Worthy Muhammad, Rahimahullah. What is so great in our passion that we are not willing to give the same, but not give it to someone else, give it to the issue of why we do what we do, saying this is help us save, and let me put this out there like this: help us save the Muslim Journal. But at the same time, in order to save the Muslim Journal, our psyche says, I've got to pay this hotel this, and I've got to pay them over here that, and I've got to be, a tourist in this city and give to it, which if I gave the 100% to the Muslim Journal, voila.
Right, right. That's right.
Make the sacrifice. Do it. Be serious about it. And education, likewise. The effort, I made a comment at the last time to be grateful in 2023 that if every event that's held makes education the center of its efforts, it will get more.
Well, look, we have to be, we have to be, we have to think outside the box, and really a lot of those things. If you look at the effort by Imam Adam,
Mm-hmm.
for the Cloud Muhammad schools, that wasn't rocket science. But the beautiful part is that he came up with it. He came up with it, and it enables our schools to get funding that's not draining on the pot. You don't put it all on one person, and that's in keeping with what the Imam said, that the business people should be responsible. I was just talking about our school, the Club Muhammad School of Queens, and I forgot where I was talking about the other day. But I was saying how I was talking with my daughter about how expensive these some of these private schools are. It's ridiculous. I'm talking about they had charging $30,000 or something. I'm not talking about college. I'm talking about some of these private schools for elementary schools, okay, and middle schools, and we were talking about the Cloud Muhammad School, and I'm saying the little we were talking about a Catholic school, and I was saying how they have mandatory fundraisers. In other words, when you pay your tuition, that ain't it, and that tuition is high. When you pay the tuition, you must buy $1,000 worth of tickets for the annual, whatever the case may be. So really, if you look at it, as my daughter was saying, really that's part of the tuition, because you can't go to school unless you do that. You're obligated. It's not no recommendation. You have to support that institution. Now, I'm not recommending. I'm not saying that we should do that, but I'm saying our school was very, very inexpensive, and our people, as you were just saying, Sister Martha, we have to have a commitment to supporting that. if you don't, if education is not your number one priority, or if it is, then you will act that way. You know, my attorney, Muslim, he was saying to me, I said to him one time about fundraiser, I say, well, you know, our people doesn't have the resources of the immigrant Muslim, so we can't raise the kind of money. And he said an expletive. He said a profanity. He said, we do. We just spend it on everything else except that. We go on all these kind of fancy vacations. We buy all these fancy cars. If you look out there in the parking lot, they got BMWs and Mercedes and Audi and whatever car they want. They got on Rolex watches. They're doing everything they want to do. But they haven't made education their number one priority. And until you do that, you're always going to be, as the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, if a man won't treat you right, what make you think he will teach you right? So we go to these institutions and give our children to them. And then when they put all these kind of crazy ideas in their head, you know, Tommy has two mommies. You know, Jane has two daddies. All this kind of nonsense. You're going to get what you get unless you control the educational environment of you. Is it important to you or not? So I don't see any other hands up. I don't know if this conversation is not interesting. Muhammad Sharif.
Yeah, assalamu alaikum, Imam Yusuf, and everyone. Yeah, speaking about progress, you know, we have seen what seems to separate ourselves from the nation of Islam. And many of us came from the nation of Islam. But somehow we let ourselves get separated from the nation. Now I'm looking at the Final Call newspaper, and we see the brothers still selling the Final Call newspaper. Why don't we purchase a copy of the newspaper when we see the brothers selling it and other things?
Well, I know.
Yeah, right.
They have some good articles in there too.
Yes. And also, I'm looking at the last issue of the Final Call, September, I can't see it too well. Looks like September 23rd, 2025. On the front page, you got Minister Farrakhan speaking on the wheel. But that's not really my purpose of thinking about that. My purpose is seeing how the Nation of Islam has stepped forward with the Final Call newspaper. September the 5th, they had a program honoring Imam W.D. Muhammad on page 6 there.
Oh, really?
Yes. And the Imam just was on Brother Adams' program a few minutes ago, Imam Tariq Al-Amin. He gave the welcome address from Hazel Chris.
Oh, okay.
Who attended that? May. Daughter Minister, pardon me, Muhammad Ali. Layla Muhammad, daughter of Imam W.D. Muhammad.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so well, yeah, you should tell everyone, get this copy of the Muslim Journal, the Final Call, and see how the Nation of Islam has stepped out. They honored Imam W.D. Muhammad. I was there. Who will come here and tell me you want to? My wife just said, and I was there in person.
Oh, you went? Oh, both of y'all went?
No, just go ahead, Sister Reba.
I happen to, Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
I happened to be in Chicago at that time.
Oh, okay.
And I had attended, I'm trying to turn my phone off because it double voices.
All right, take your time.
And I had selected that weekend because of my Mascare's convention and some other business to take care of since I'm from Chicago. But when I attended, I was trying to turn the phone off. But and then I didn't find out until when I was there that they were having Imam W.D. Muhammad Day. And when I attended, they had such great respect for the Imam. Because some of you who had also attended the first Sunday years ago when the Imam was here, we used to have the mayor of Hazel Crest who would be there. I know some of you remember.
Oh, yeah.
And also, Brother Rod Bashir, he's one of the ones who coordinated this because he was a former village trustee in Hazel Crest.
Yes, ma'am.
But what I found, as I was saying, the great respect that the non-Muslims have for the Imam, W.D. Muhammad.
Oh, yes.
Alhamdulillah. So I'll stop there.
I'm
But I
glad
just
you were
wanted
able
to
to make it.
emphasize that.
I'm glad you were able to make that and report on it to us.
Okay. Another thing, though, I forgot to mention is that the current mayor is an African American female. And she spoke and she gave great respect also for the Imam. Okay, so I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum.
Now, I see a hand up with a number 1 next to it. I don't know who that is. Is that I hear someone trying to speak, but I can't hear you. Who's number 1?
Okay, man, what they are trying to get themselves together there. I want to emphasize that Imam Tariq Al-Amin, who was on Imam Adams program a few minutes ago, he wanted to give a keynote address.
Oh, alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
All right.
And one of the participants there, was his name is Imam Sultan Muhammad.
Yes, the Imam's nephew.
Right. You know, he is the only minister in the nation of Islam that has the title Imam.
Well, no, he's not. No, he's not. There's
another
another brother. There's another brother in Baltimore. Yeah, another brother in Baltimore. He used to be known as Minister Carlos. But young brother.
Thank you for bringing that to my attention. Thank you for bringing that attention to everybody's attention. That at least there are two leaders, ministers in the Imam Farrakhan community called Imam.
Yeah,
thank you, ma'am. Well,
yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you. All right, we're running out of time. So if anybody else would like to choose number 1, whoever had their hand up with a 1 next to it. All right, that's going. All right. Yeah. So Van Jones came out there and made that terrible comment about all you see is dead Gaza baby, dead Gaza baby, dead Gaza baby. P. Diddy. Ha ha ha. They started laughing. Sister Martha, you got your hand back up.
Yes, I did. You had more time. Okay. I wanted to just mention to everyone about tonight, the Intimate Stranger, Edward Willis, host of that at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and Not Just Talk at 8 p.m. with Michael Hameen. Thank you, Imam.
Thank you. So I got a call the other day about the Muslim Journal having their time to be grateful. They're going to have it again in Newark. So that's a blessing. You know, it make it a little easier for those of us to get to. Well, maybe not easier for you, Sister Martha, because you down in Florida. But make it a little easier to get to than the Miami, that Miami one. But they're gonna have it in Newark again. Alhamdulillah. So we're gonna try to help them out with it. And you know, the East Coast has always been, I'll say, at the risk of insulting some of y'all, that the East Coast has always been very supportive of the Nation of Islam and Imam W.D. Muhammad's ministry as well. So we always have a pretty good turnout there in Newark when it's in that area. We would like to have it in New York, but the hotels are prohibitively expensive. You know, the hotels are just crazy. You know, in New York with their pricing. And Newark, we seem to be able to get a little. They up there too now, but they seem to get a little, be much better than New York. Brother Muhammad Sharif, you got your hand back up.
Oh yes, I believe Sister Amira from Chicago. I believe that the celebration of in crazy Hazel Crest, Illinois, of Imam W.D. Muhammad. I think she was trying to get on. I believe Samira, she was there also.
Unless she's that number one, I don't. She can go ahead and say something if she's. I don't see anybody else.
I don't know. For some reason, my volume is down. It's all the way up
Oh,
on
well,
my
they can
phone, but
all right, we can hear
I
you now.
can't hardly hear anybody. But yeah, I was there, and it was a wonderful, wonderful celebration. And thank Brother Roger, because he and I, we attend the same center, Muslim center, which is Tariq Al-Amin is our Imam. And it was a very spectacular event. I think we had like 125 people, close to that. But we thank Allah for being able to have that unification among each other. And Brother Sultan from the Nation of Islam, periodically he will come, he'll come around our community. And, so we have a very good fellowship. We really do. And I thank Allah for that. And that, I pray that we continue to work together and unify.
Alhamdulillah.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam. All right, we're getting close. We got about 8 minutes left, 7 minutes left. If anybody else would like to jump in. But what I wanted to say, I'll continue until somebody does. What I wanted to say is that, the media that we have now, they won't allow you to speak except if you color within their lines. If you color outside of their lines, in other words, what they deem to be acceptable discourse. If you say something that they don't like, or that they came on to, well, I think Hamas is agreeing to a ceasefire because President Trump threatened them. What the hell are you gonna threaten them people with? What you gonna do to them that you ain't been doing to them already? What nobody will say on there is that you're not powerful enough militarily to do anything other than what you've been doing, which is killing them people, destroying them people, genociding them people. You can do some more of that, but that hasn't been enough, has it? If it was enough, you wouldn't be talking to Hamas. You would have obliterated them already, to use his word. How come you haven't obliterated them already? You want me to believe that the reason why you haven't obliterated them is because you are moral and I'm trying to give you one more chance. No, you've been doing everything you could do to them people. There's nothing that you held back on them people other than using nuclear weapons. And if you use that, then you're going to kill yourself too. So don't talk nonsense to me. Nobody stopped. It was a Muslim sister, at least she had a Muslim name on there last night, talking about Trump threatened them. That's why you got your job as a Muslim woman, because you echo in their line. If you said something that they didn't want to hear, you wouldn't have a job, because I would tell her to her face, you're speaking nonsense. What are they going to do to them people? The reason why they won't let cameras in there and they won't let they're killing journalists for coming in there trying to cover it, because they don't want you to see what they've done to them. Now you want me to believe that you got some secret weapon that you haven't used yet. But if I don't do what you tell me to do now, no. What I found out, when people come to you looking for peace, and Allah tells you that too, Allah tells us, if you're hurting, know that your enemy is hurting too. That's the Quran. So y'all don't want to. You don't want to. You don't want to accept the Quran. Allah says, if you're hurting, know that they're hurting too. They want you to believe you're hurting, but I'm not. So I'm gonna give you a chance to stop. No, you giving me a chance for you to stop hurting. Don't lie to me. I'm not saying you hurting. They hurting the way the Palestinian people are hurting. But what I'm saying, they're hurting economically. Their image is hurting. People are, as the Imam was saying on Imam Adam's show, there's hundreds of thousands and millions of people around the world demonstrating against them. That's hurting them, whether you know it or not. There's people that's closing down ports in Italy that refuse to send any weapons or anything to them. That's hurting them. They just like when I was in a lawsuit, and the people and my lawyer said, they want to settle a lawsuit. You think they want to settle a lawsuit to help me or to help themselves? They ain't coming to me to say, oh, this is crazy. Let's stop this lawsuit. They're coming to me because they're hurting, not because I'm hurting. They never come to you to help you. They're coming to you to help themselves. But they want to make it look like I'm gonna do you a favor. No, you ain't doing me no favor. Like the man said to me, if we keep going to court, it's gonna cost you more money. I said, no, you speaking for yourself. If you keep going to court, it's gonna cost you more money. Why are you worried about what money it's gonna cost me? Don't worry about what it's gonna cost me. It's gonna cost you. So that's why they come. And they want to make it look like Trump he ended the war. He should get the Nobel Peace Prize. He's full of crap. Should you get the Nobel Peace? Because you've been telling him to go ahead and do it. You've been giving him the weapons. You've been protecting him. You've been hugging him and kissing him when he come here. So now you want the Nobel Prize if you can stop it. No, we know better than that. But nope, they won't allow me to say that on the air, on CNN. They won't allow nobody to say it because you won't be invited back no more. Yeah, you can have nuclear bombs. But guess what? You'll destroy yourself and the whole world too. So your weapons are not almighty. Nothing is almighty except for a God, Allah. There's nothing, your weapons are not almighty. Nobody will say that to their face. Oh, we have the most powerful military in history. And guess what? You still couldn't win Vietnam. Trump had to come out the other day talking about the reason why we didn't win in Vietnam. The reason why you didn't win Vietnam is because you were destroying the people militarily, but it was destroying you at home. Your country fell apart. The people in the streets demonstrating. They didn't want this. You lost 50,000 Americans over there, and you killed 1 million of them people. But your primitive definition of war is, I kill you more than you kill me. No. Allah tells us the taking of one life is as you have killed the whole world. See, we don't want to acknowledge the Quran. I don't care whether they acknowledge it or not. It's true because Allah said it. And it's true for them too, whether they believe it or not. I don't care if they believe it. If Allah said it, it's true for everybody. Me, him, everybody. So that's how we have to evaluate and analyze things, according to the guidance of the Quran. That's where you'll come to the right answer. So when they come to you, it's not because you're hurting. It's because they're hurting. Now, we are hurting because we see our people being destroyed like that. And we ask Allah, why is this going on? We don't know. But we trust Allah like they trust Allah. They blow their masjid up, and the people put their rug down in the ashes and make salat. They don't have no masjid, but they still make it salat. And they hate that. They hate to see that. They want you to make them God. But we will never make sajda to you. We make sajda to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that's it. So we're coming to the end of the show, and we thank you for listening. Thank you for supporting. Please continue to support Muslim media. Don't just support the Final Call now. Support the Muslim Journal. Support AM 360 and all Muslim media, because they're not going to let us talk like this on their show. So we pray Allah that you
That's
have
good.
a blessed Juma Mubarak, and that you and your family remain safe and happy and healthy. Hold on to the rope of Allah. It's the most trustworthy handhold that never breaks. So until next time, Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam.
Thank
I
you,
just
brother
want,
Imam.
thank you. I just wanted to make a quick comment that Final Call article can be found online. You can go to the Final Call online and find an article about the Imam. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Jamil.
Alhamdulillah.
They can't deny Imam Muhammad. Imam Muhammad did too much work. They can't deny Imam Muhammad. They can try. Like I told my daughter, they waited for the Imam to die to say, W.D. Muhammad is America's Imam. They're full of crap. You understand? They should have been saying that before.
Imam,
Yes.
you have to end the live streaming. Are you in this whole seat? Let's see.
I don't think so.
Adam Beyah is in the host seat. Okay.
I don't know if he's still on.
Let's see.
I
Can
don't think
you, if you click on your name, can it say
Imam Yusuf is in the whole seat also.
Oh, I am?
no?
Okay.
Your co-host.
I did before I left. But
Okay.
I signed up.
Mine just
Well,
said
your name is still in the host seat, but he's in co-host. See if you can stop it,
It's saying
Imam.
leave
All
meeting.
right,
It's not saying
I'll
end
stop it.
meeting.
I'll
All
stop
right.
it.